Hello everyone. My name is Pelisa Mafunda, an author of the book Healing the Wounds of Debt. So today I decided to launch the book Healing the Wounds of Debt because I feel I wanted to launch it before the lockdown, and then the lockdown happened on the day that I was planning the launch. And now with all this social distancing and the book selling, I thought let me come here on the online platforms because there is a community on the online platforms. There is a community, so it will be better if I launch it here and people get to know a little bit deeper on what the book covers. And yes, I'll just talk about what is in the book, and I'll also take questions if there aren't any questions. Welcome everyone who is here. Guys, unfortunately, I cannot see who's on the page, unlike the normal Facebook, my personal Facebook, where I can see who's on the page, who is with me. Then I can acknowledge them, but on the page, unfortunately, I cannot see who is here. So I'll just say to everyone, hello, welcome to the book launch. The book is Healing the Wounds of Debt. Oh, I can see there is Tandega there. Hi, Tandega. Thank you so much for the compliment. And you can wave. Anyone who's here, please wave. Just for me to know, Uguti, you are here. And then, oh, I see there's Jemima as well. Okay, thank you guys. Welcome. So I'm going to be talking about the book, covering the whole book. Again, tomorrow we're going to launch it on a Zoom platform where we'll have question and answers. It's going to be a bit more exciting day. We're going to have someone who's going to be an MC and asking questions. And yes, it's going to be more on the interaction side with the question and answers things. So if you have the book, you can just look into where you would need more clarity on, and then you get your questions ready for Zoom. If you're not going to be part of the Zoom, you can get your questions, write them down here, because I don't know how to do this thing of inviting a person and get them to talk. So hi everyone, thank you so much for being part of this. This is the book that I'm talking about, Healing the Wounds of Debt. First of all, let me just take say a brief on why I wrote this book. I have a dream of seeing people debt-free or living a debt-free life, of which I believe is something that is very much possible. I believe Uguti, most of us found ourselves in debt because we didn't have the right platforms, we didn't have the right education, and we were just excited and we didn't understand exactly how debt works. Then I also, with the self-development and personal development courses, I then realized, Uguti, actually there's more to people having debt than just having the bank balance, or the outstanding balance. Then I realized there is more. There's actually the psychological reasons behind it. Hence the book talks about healing the wounds of debt. So the wounds are the part where it's the psychological part. I discovered my psychological part and I worked on healing it. I am still working on it because healing is an ongoing process. It's not something that you can say you can do it overnight. But the most important thing is for you to actually be able to identify what is your debt. Then we can take it from there on to heal. Okay, so that was my initial idea of writing this book after I had realized my why am I in debt. Because after finding myself never getting out of the debt cycle, no matter how tired I was of paying the previous debt, I would find myself getting myself into debt again. And then I asked myself, I wonder why am I having this behavior? And then I realized, Uguti, the behavior is a series of thoughts. I was told when I was doing the self-development courses, I then learned uguti the beliefs are a series of thoughts, and the beliefs they lead into habits. Then when you have your habits, then you subconsciously do the things without even thinking about it. So for me, that knowledge led me to thinking, oh, okay, it means this habit of me being forever in debt is something that I had seen, Oganye, that I was thinking about, and now I am doing it at a subconscious level. So I had to dig a bit deeper and find out what was my why. Then when I found out my why, I got very interested in thinking Uguti. I wonder how many people are not aware Uguti there's actually a deeper reason behind you Oganye, behind them being in debt. Then I tried to do a research, and with, I think it was part of the journey, the fact that I had to work in the bank, I was already exposed to a lot of whys zabantu, even though I didn't realize Uguti, as people were telling me their stories about their journey into this debt trap, if I can put it like that. It was actually the reason for me to do this, to write this book, to talk about this thing and share it with as many people who are like willing to receive me and receive this information, okanye who are identified ukuthi they are supposed to receive the information that I have received. So that was the main reason for me to write this book, just to get people and create awareness ukuthi yes, there might be other reasons for you to get into debt. There might be you are pressured. There might be some emergencies that were created and you find yourself, Uguti, you are in debt. But if maybe we can look beyond those emergencies, if we can look beyond those pressures, maybe, just maybe, you will find, Uguti, it's actually deeper than, it's actually deeper than the one that is at the front end, the results of. When I'm saying the front end, I mean the reason that you can actually see, that you can say, I got myself into debt because, I had a tire burst. I got myself into debt because I had a child and I was not ready for it. Those are the front end part of you getting into debt. Then now, when I realized there was a back end part of it, which is now the psychological reason, that was now the main reason for me to say, okay, I am writing this book so that a person who reads it, they can find their why. Okay, then the book is written into 3 sections. It's in 3 sections, and the first section is my story, my introduction, my background, and my debt story. And so it's my introduction, it's the introduction, my background, then my debt story, and why people find themselves in debt. Okay, I also have a part where I talk about good and bad debt. I'll just go through my background. I'm smiling because I'm seeing Untombi here. She said yesterday she dropped a tear when she was reading about my background. And I think if it was before I got the healing, I would also drop a tear and feel sorry for myself. But because I've passed that and I've looked at it as a blessing, Uguti, why did I go through what I had to go through? Why did I grow up in a place, in that kind of an area? It was for me to share this story. So when I start on the introduction, I talk about sharing a story, the importance of sharing a story. I did do a live video the other day where I was actually saying sharing a story could be the navigator for someone else who is about to start their journey. And it's very important to share your own story so that you get to motivate other people. I even said sharing a story doesn't necessarily have to be in a form of a book. It doesn't have to be in a form of blog, or it doesn't necessarily have to be in writing. You can just say to someone and they get the story and they navigate. I remember the other day, I was making an example the other day. We were just talking with a friend of mine, and then I shared a very strange story that I had shared with her. A few months later, she sent me a message and she was like, you know what, Pelly, I got into this kind of trouble. And today, when I thought of it, me losing it all, and I remembered the story that you once shared to me, and it made me think, Uguti, you know what, I'm actually going to get through this. So that's why I always feel good. It's always important to share a story. The other day I shared a very little story that I didn't even think it was going to have a significance into someone else's life. When a person had shared a quote, and I said, you know what, this quote had gave me the courage to leave my work. And the inboxes that I think I got about 4 inboxes, people wanting to know more about that. That was just a little story, and I didn't think it was going to have an impact. So on the introduction, I talk about sharing a story, the importance of sharing a story, why is it important to share your story, and that it can actually touch a life. I also say that your story doesn't have to be at the end part of it. It can be at the middle of it. My story is at the middle. It's not yet there. It's at the end. I actually wanted to wait to write this book and say, let me rather wait, because yes, I have found these solutions, but let me rather wait and until I'm at a point where I'm like, now my problems are totally solved. But then I thought again, now why should I do that? Because now I am in this I'm in the middle of the road and I'm traveling this journey. Someone else is starting this journey. So what if I share the story and I give them hope? Because I can already see the finish line. I can see where I am going. What if the person who's starting the journey, they don't even know where they are going? So if I am sharing the story and saying to them, when I started this journey, I didn't know where I was going. But now, because I didn't stop, I started this journey. I'm in the middle of it and I can already now see the light. Where am I going? So that's basically my introduction, and I believe this is a very powerful introduction because I shared it with a couple of people, and it has made them realize what they had started, they have to finish. Some people that were thinking of starting it, then they hadn't started, and when I shared this introduction, they actually thought, you know what, I am starting. So I believe this introduction of mine is very powerful. Then I talk about on the second, it's not a chapter yet. It's not a chapter yet. Then I talk about my background. Okay, just to take you a brief, I grew up in a place report for the first 10-12 years, I think. I can't remember how many years, but for the first 10 years of my life, I grew up in a place report. It's a farm. You walk about 15 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken, to the bus stop, and ibasi ifika ngo 5, it arrives at 5 in the morning. If you missed that one, you have to walk extra 10 kilometers to a place Apongogu. Currently it's our home. We call that place Endawana. Then we had to wake up as early as 2 o'clock in the hours of Exeni. And then Maufika stopping, you have to change to totally new clothes because you are soaking wet. You were walking in the bushes, you were walking in between it's not a very nice area. And look at me, I'm saying it with a smile. I used to feel very emotional when I was talking about this place. And we would walk there. There is all kinds of wild animals, if I can put it like that. You can just walk, and as you are walking, the snake crosses your path, and you just pause, wait for it to cross, and then you continue, because what else can you do that you want to get to town? So yeah, you would have things. I grew up in a space like that, and as I was growing up, now when I'm talking about my background, I want you to see the what is this? The link between my dad's story and this type of growing up. So as I was growing up, I said to myself, the first thing that I'm going to do when I get a job, I'm buying myself a car. I'm never going to walk. As soon as I have a job, a pay slip, I'm buying myself a car. Okay, we would do this, and the bus would pick us up at 5, and we would arrive in town at around 10. So it was a 5-hour gravel drive road with a bus in between of too many locations where it does ama pickups. Then when we come back, ibasi iya puma in town 1, and then when we come back, it does the drop-offs. And we are in the second location. So it qala endawana, and then it picks us up at Royport, and then it continues. So we are the first people in the morning, but in the afternoon, we are the second last people to be dropped off. Now, mind you, we are walking a 15-kilometer walk, and we were going there to do groceries. We would arrive there at about 11 at night most of the time, because the bus does drop off. And when it does drop off, people have their groceries. They, it's written, you umile paya ibus imile, people, they are dropping off, and there's a conductor on top of the bus uya shouta, no 25 kg wamwe mili obhalwe uban ban, and the conductor has to like browse through the groceries on top of the bus, and then they drop it off. It is a suga a bus, and then you hear someone saying, wow, kushiyeke plastic yam kwestulo, and the driver has to stop. When I get was a report, Undawana is okay because they are just walking like 2 minutes, 5 minutes to their homes. When I was a report, you know very well good, you still have like an hour walk after you have been dropped off and you've got the groceries. So we would hide our groceries because masfika ngabo 11, we would have my aunts and my uncle, they would wait for us in the bus stop, but most of the time you find them sebephinde ekhaya because we came ibhasi yayifika late ngabo at night, so they would leave us, and it's a very quiet place. These days I would actually say it's a nice place. My mother always asks me, how come I still like indawo namahlathi? I don't know, I just find myself grounded in that place. So currently I love it because even if when I go there moto and I come back and I don't feel it, but during that times it was not a very nice place to be. So what we would do is we would come back and drop off izinto, and then we would hide them ngaphansi kwamatye, and we would, so that in the morning then we come back and pick them up. So it was that kind of a journey. Then later in the years, my mother was working in a bakery. Later in the years, she managed to buy a home, our current home in Dawana, and then we moved. Guys, that was like what? That was wow. It felt like we have moved to a top suburb, because it was a 5-minute walk to the bus stop. That took the cab for us. Even today when we talk about it, there's nothing that excited us more than moving to Endawana, more than the bus stop. That was like wow. Waking up at 6, getting yourself ready, and then catching a taxi at 7. Whoo! That was like what? That was so nice. Arriving ending in 1, because now we were able to go to other towns like Anderberg and Kokstad, and we stopped totally to use our hometown Umzimkhulu, because it was a gravel drive. So the other ones, Kokstad and Anderberg, they were 5 kilometers gravel, and then the rest was a tarred road. So that was like really nice. So that is now the first one, the first part of this book. And then I talk about the good and the bad debt. Okay, first of all I talk about why people get themselves into debt, and then I list a couple of things there. I list things that I can relate to. Having an unplanned baby, financial illiteracy. Those were the ones. Things that would make you a person not know, just getting excited for every approval. I was at that point, you qualify for a gold credit card. There was a time where a credit card, a gold, had a status. So when I was told to I qualify for a gold credit card, it was like, whoo, I qualify for a gold credit card, and swiping njengayo was just an honor. And yeah, that was lack of financial literacy. I believe now, because I've empowered myself with financial education, I can never even I wouldn't even get excited with even a black or a platinum or whatever. I don't even look at the statuses of the cards now because I know what they come with. So lack of financial literacy, unplanned kids, guys. Kids, they're beautiful. We love them. We get excited when they are there. But if they are not planned, they are very expensive. It's a reality. It's a reality. Abantwana, they are very expensive. And kids are an ongoing expense. So when you have a baby, just you need to be like financially fit for you to be able to take care of the baby. And I know Oguti, when they are there, they are great, and God is going to take care of them, but you also as a parent need to chip into the pocket and, be financially fit. So when you are having unplanned additions in the family, you are most likely to, because you don't want to deprive them of the good life. You find yourself giving them good life through credit, which is, it's not a good thing. Another thing that I talk about the lack of savings. I talk about, can I just browse through? I talk about the lack of savings on the why people find themselves into debt. Oh, another one. I talk about the lack of patience. We are very impatient beings. I remember when I started working, I took a whole bedroom suite and a TV and a whole lot of things on credit, which I believe, Uguti, why would I pay 12,000 rand for a 5,000 rand TV? Because when I actually went and did the calculations of my very first TV purchase, which was 4,000 rand, I think it was big at that time. It was 2008. It was really huge. I think it was 4,000 rand. But when I calculate the installments that I was paying, I actually paid more than 10,000 rand. And it was not because I didn't have money or I couldn't save, and it was not because there was no TV. There was a TV, but I lacked patience. So those are the other things that someone would find yourself, Uguti, you get into debt. We lack patience. We want things now, we are not, what's the word? Emotional intelligent when it comes to our finances. You would want something now, and you know very well how your pockets look like, but you still want it and you want to buy it, and we rob ourselves in terms of thinking, Uguti, because my credit score is good, then I'm going to use it to buy this thing. So that is one of the biggest mistakes that we do. But again, I think that comes back to being financial literate, because if you are financial literate, you are most of the time doing the planning and knowing exactly what you're putting yourself into. Then you wouldn't lack patience. I wouldn't have said, okay, I'm buying the TV now because I can qualify, and I was told, Guti, as long as once you have 3 consecutive salaries, then you are going to start to qualify, which was really not right. So I talk about that, why we find ourselves in debt, the lack of patience, the lack of savings, that is the emergency fund. We find ourselves turning into the emergency, making our good credit score again an emergency or a fallback plan. When something is not right, you need something to patch, that you need to do now. Then because you don't have an emergency fund, you find yourself going to a bank, borrowing money, doing a short-term loan. So those are the reasons most people find themselves in debt. I talk about a lot of things. Again, I talk about the gambling game, and then I talk about the psychological reasons, the emotional wounds that I talk about. I do have a section that talks solely about the wounds, that is the emotional wounds and all of that. Okay, that is now the first section of the book. Okay, the last one that I think is very important, the good and the bad debt. Okay, according to the society, if I can put it like that, according to society, we have things that we say they are good debts, and we've got things that we call them bad debt. On a personal level, I always say I separate a good debt and a bad debt solely on intentions. Why do I say that? I say that because we are different species and we are different beings, and we have different priorities. We cannot think the same way. And for someone else, buying a car on credit would be regarded as bad debt. Some people may judge them and ask Uguti, why did she buy a car before Ake? Why would she buy a car before she had a shelter? But we don't know the preferences of this person, and we don't know why this person decided to buy a car. Someone else, like for example, there are people who are staying on the far side of town and they need to get to work on daily basis, and for them using a public transport is a pain. So for that person, a car is a good debt for them, because they are investing in their development, they are investing in themselves. In terms of Uguti, let's just say you're starting a business and you get this opportunity to buy a car, and for you to get to meetings, you need to come into early. You have to be early so that your business associate, they take you seriously. I'm just taking one of the examples that are on the book. And someone else would be like, "Haibo, angataqala business abesekethenga imoto," but you don't know the pressure of this person. Where I'm getting at with this is, we shouldn't judge ourselves of the debts that we have taken, as long as our priorities were correct, as long as our hearts were in the right space, and as long as your intention was good, So we shouldn't let the society decide what is a good debt and a bad debt for us. A good debt is something that's going to make you prosper in life. That's what I always say. If a debt is going to make you prosper in life, then that debt is good. So, and we can always use debt that is regarded as bad. Like, for example, a personal loan. Personal loan has a very high interest rate, but you can use it if you are going to say, I'll make an example, you take 100 rand and buy stock and then sell and make 300 rand profits. That you can't regard that as bad debt, and then you take back the 100 rand even before you can actually pay the long-term interest. 5 years, you can take it back because you have now gained more out of this. So the most important thing in debt is not to label it. Don't label it. Don't make it good or make it bad. Just look at your intentions and what is it that you want to do, and you can actually use debt to prosper. If there is a need, you can actually use debt to prosper. Then I move to the second section. Guys, you can write your questions there. I'm going to answer them. I'm going to read my comments again when I'm done talking. I am worried, Uguti, if I start reading the questions now, maybe I might not say everything. I am going to be very brief. I'm not going to be very long, because I would love for the last 30 minutes Uguti they attend the questions. So I don't want Uguti to read the questions and then dipume and forget Uguti what is it that I was saying. So I'm just giving you the brief of the book, then I'll read the questions and then answer them. Okay, so then we move on to the second section of the book, where I talk about the emotional wounds. Ogani, I talk about the wounds. There it is. Let me just show you section 2. I talk about the wounds. Can I just read this part? Guys, sometimes you'd write something and then when you read it and you're like, oh, did I really write this? Because when I read this thing, I was like, oh, did I really write this? And yeah, guys. So let me just read this part. Section 2, the beginning of section 2, it talks about the wounds. And I say here, in this section, I'm going to be touching on some sensitive and maybe controversial issues. We do not have to agree and relate in all of these issues touched, but maybe if we are open-minded about them, we can learn a few things. Some of the issues might go straight to the heart and head, but is it not that the nature of an unhealed wound? A wound that has decided to hide itself and look like it's part of your flesh. No one can see its unhealed wound unless someone touches it and you feel the pain. It is full of pus and you have actually made peace with it. You are moving on with life because this wound is now part of you. Well, in this section, we are opening these wounds. We are cleaning that pus, and we are cleaning them and dressing them with those antiseptic bandages. We will be applying that antibiotic ointment, and we are doing this so that they can heal. If you can relate in any of these chapters, take a moment and allow yourself to heal. You are allowed to feel the pain. That can only mean one thing: you are healing. Okay, guys, I'm going to just share a little story about a wound that looks like part of your flesh and you have made peace with it. So, in my background, I talk about how we used to make the ends meet, if I can put it like that. And my grandmother used to ukusebenza emizini. She would either uyabanda. I really don't know what is ukbanda in English, but like using mud to fix other people's houses, or uyahela, like you in the rural areas kukhona the what is this, houses that are built with grass. So we would use ihele to for that grass, to cut that grass. So when we come back, my grandmother, we find out ukuthi as she was doing, because she's fast, ufuna ukuthi agqibe indlu yakwabanibani so that she can start indlu yakwabanibani, you know, all of that. So they would say bafuna inyanda ezu 100. So we are working fast. Now ufumanisa ukuthi the inga ingenile in my grandmother's flesh, because she was the one who was doing the healing part. It has gone through my grandmother's flesh. Ihlale phayana. The other day, mhlambe, she's asking you, hey, Pelisa, kontambisa imilenze, or whatever she just needs. She wants some self-care nyana, whether you are rubbing yena or anything. And then when you touch her, she would be like, sure, that it hurts there, you know. And when you pay more attention there, it looks normal like this, but when you touch her, she says it hurts there. And then when you press, kuphume inga. Guys, can I just use my language? I'm sorry if there's people who don't understand, but I'm trying as much as I can. Kuphume inga this long, guys. It's in the flesh, and it no longer like looks like there is something wrong. Kuphume that, and it would come out. It looking a bit darkish now, and when you press it, then there is pus. That is now this beginning of this section. It was motivated by that when I thought of it. Hey, my grandmother would walk for days. We would think the last time we beskhela, it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. But when we pressed the kuphume inga, meaning that she was hurt at that time, that grass got into her body that time, and then it became part of yen, and she never felt it until it was touched. You know, that's what I'm talking about there. When I talk about the wounds, you can walk around thinking that you are okay until someone else comes there, afika zoti press in that area, and then you actually see good, I'm actually wounded, and I didn't even know I was wounded. The only thing that you can see, it looks the same, it looks like it's me. And then when someone actually touches it, you feel the pain, and you now are like, whew, that hurts, you know. And the best part about that is that when it starts to hurt, you take out that pus, and then you clean that place, because we would take out that pus and clean the place, and then we would apply the ointment so that she heals faster. Okay, so this is now that's the context of this chapter. When I was saying, if you feel the pain when you're reading this book in any of these chapters, that means you have touched that unhealed wound that you thought had healed, or that you didn't even see it was there. Okay, then I've divided the wounds into four wounds or 5 wounds. Let me just to be sure. I talk about the ancestral wounds. I talk about the childhood wounds. I talk about the peer pressure. the self-sabotage. Oh, I didn't know there were so many. I talk about the self-sabotage, the fear of money. Those are the wounds that I talk about. Let me just brief you. Okay, after each and every wound, I give you the healing process. There's a healing process there on how you can actually heal on each and every wound. I talk about the ancestral wound. And I know Uguti, there might be people who will be like, what ancestors? They are gone and all of that. Okay, it's fine. It's okay if you think like that. I'm not going to dispute anything. And I do mention in the book, Uguti, I'm not disputing anything, your beliefs or anything about that. But I just want us to look at our homes just generally. You would hear someone, Uguti, where a certain child, they look exactly like their grandmother or their grandfather. And even the habits, I've heard abantu kuthiwa someone mhlawumbe uyahlupha uyasela or whatever, a child uyahlupha ekhaya, and a grandmother would be like, ufuze uyisemkhulu, and that's just it, you know, that there's nothing done about that. They're not even worried because it's in the lineage. They are like, okay, ufuze utatomkhulu wakhe, so they are supposed to, for them it's some sort of an identity yokuthi truly speaking, this child is our blood, because this behavior is exactly like for the grandfather. But now there are other things, you know, that we take from our ancestors, and not all of them are good. And so that is just basically saying our ancestors, they live through us. If we can say a certain grandfather, a certain child looks and behaves like like their grandfather, that means that grandfather is living through that child with. So they haven't given up on their habits even after death, you know. So then I talk about that, Guti. You find yourself, Guti, you keep on doing things and you are thinking, oh, okay, no, it's fine, because my grandfather was doing it like that, so it's okay. But what if those things are hurting you? And it said that as you come in front of the lineage, you take what their ancestors were doing. Then it means if you are okay with you taking these things, you are going to give it to your child, to your children, and they are going to give them to the next generation and the next generation until you find healing. And I talk about that, and I have provided the healing processes. And then I talk about the childhood wounds. That was my wound when it comes to death. That was just basically my wound. My wound was just basically there. Even however I look at it, I can just see it. Uguti, the main thing that actually hurt me and got me into this deep debt that I was in, it was basically my childhood experiences. I was wounded there, and me thinking that when I grow up I'm going to fix it was actually me putting it even deeper, or digging it in even deeper with myself. So I talk about myself in my wound, how my wound showed up, and how I managed to realize this was actually the childhood. I was just repeating the childhood experiences, and in this case I was not repeating them in a form of the way they happened when I was growing up. I was repeating in a form of money, or in a form of myself getting into debt more often, over and over again. Let me just share a story of why I think I realized what my wound was basically a childhood wound. So when I was growing up, when we moved to Endawana, okay, everything was okay with the report part and all of that. Then when we moved to Endawana, my mother lost a job. And then when she lost a job, we started to really struggle, because she was the only person who was working at the family at that particular time. We started to really struggle, like really struggle. Ukustrugglisha oku kokucela kwamakhelwane, like molweni umama ubethe ndizomenane 5 liter yempuphu. That was the kind of life, you know. And we would receive mhlambe granty. My grandmother was earning a grant yokugula, not the one for an old age, the one for chronic. And that one, at that time it was like 3 months, and then funeki vuselelwe. After every 3 months it had to be ukuthi vuselelwe. And that was it was not like, okay, and then you're going to get it next month. You had to go through a waiting period again. So while she was receiving that grant, she would buy groceries, like the 10 liter, the 15, the 25 kg of mili, and on all those things, like there's something ekubizwa ngokuthi ngumxoxozi okanye igaloni. Ibisivuma kakhulu ekhaya, so we would eat that like every day. But imili and amafutha and all those things, those were the things esasiye siphile ngokuzicela, and then nge-month end when she gets paid, she would buy 25 kg, and then half of it would go to emizini to siphindisa, paying back. We were paying back isikweleti. So when I started working, so as I'm growing up, I'm like, I'm not subscribing to this kind of lifestyle, I am just not, I'm not coming and easy. But what I didn't realize, now this story that I was seeing in my life, it was actually getting engraved in my life. And when I started working, I would have money for 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks of the month, I survived ngokuboleka. Then when I get paid in their imali for upon boleke corner, and then again. And then when I realized, when I read this thing about debt is something bigger, then that was like an aha moment for me. You know what? I'm actually repeating a pattern. But this pattern now because I'm like no with food, but I'm doing this thing, the exact same thing with money. That was for me an aha moment. So that was my wound, the childhood wound. But in the book, I talk about different kinds of food, because like I'm saying, I was blessed enough to be working in the bank, and people will tell me their stories. Somehow people just always find ways to tell me their childhood stories, and then somehow it would link to them. I was a sales consultant, and when doing an application for anything, then someone would actually talk, just telling me their stories. Somehow we have this thing, yoguti, when someone is eboleki mali in the bank, I don't know why people would always think they're borrowing the money from the consultant, yet they not. They're borrowing the money from the bank. The consultant is just someone who's just doing the capturing and who has been given task, you need to close this number of sales. So people would always, every time when they take loans with me, I don't know whether it was guilt or what, they would find a reason to explain, but maybe it was not guilt, maybe it was for this book, now that I think of it, maybe it was for this book, I was getting prepared so that I get to experience these things and then get to share them, and be in a space where I can actually say, you know what, I can actually see what is, having some sort of evidence. We suffer from different kinds of childhood wounds, because someone would actually think, no, a person who grew up from a home that was well off, they are going to be well off for forever, and yet that also has its its consequences that it plays. So I'll just browse through the childhood wounds, because I share a whole lot of childhood wounds, and I was exposed to a lot of people who had childhood wounds, and also through coaching, because I do a lot of coaching with the debt. Somehow I just get a lot of clients that need coaching with debt. Then I then see the pattern of the same thing. Okay, so I talk about my wound, the first one, from a home that was lacking, and then when I grew up, the story of mine happened. And then I talk about growing in a financially strict home, where everybody is deprived everything, and then when they start to work, they are like, oh, I'm never going to be this stingy, and they tend to now to overdo this thing, because now they are like, I was deprived of this thing. I remember I would be like, sometimes I would be like, when I want to buy something and I don't have a budget for it, and I would justify ndithi no, ndondla lo mzimba ovukayo, I'm taking care of this body. This is the body that does the work, so there's no way I'm not going to get this thing. So that was me tuning into my defensive mode, because I knew what I was doing was not part of the plan, but I would still do it because I'm tuning into the defensive mode. So growing up on a very financially strict home, it might lead you to over compensate and do find yourself deep into debt. Growing up spoiled, when you have grown up in a home where you are like, yes, you can get everything, then when you grow up and then life really hits you, because you will grow up and the parents are not there, and the people that were taking care of you are not there, and now you do not know ukuthi there are times where you won't have, then you tend to force things because you do not know ukuthi there are times where you don't have, and life will happen because life always happens. So you won't know ukuthi you kunamaxesha where izinto zingekho because you were spoiled when nje bowutsho kubeka i-1 and things happen. You want this, then it happens. You want that, then things happen. And then when you start to grow up and when you say, I want this, and then things don't happen, and you are like, whoop, I am working, so I can still say I want this and get it to happen. And then you end up finding yourself upila above your means, Those are the things. I share here the reason, and then I tell you the effect. If you have grown up in an environment that looks like this, then you will have this effect. And then I also share on what processes or what steps you can do to heal. And then I talk about surviving with handouts. I'm going to talk about my mother. My mother, Nae Anditishi, when they were still growing up, they kind of struggled until she went and ayosebenza. So they bebephila ngama handouts. I do share this on my background. Then my mother has this thing of overgiving, and sometimes she would give from an empty pocket. So if you grew up from places where you were just given, and people were giving you because they were feeling sorry for you, you find yourself ukuthi when you grow up and start to things start to work for yourself, and then you feel guilty every time you see a same scenario as you, or a younger you in a different being. Then you start wanting to say, you know what, nathi sisikule area, namdikule area. My mother would like to say, ndikule position endawo because kwakhona abantu abanjengobani who helped me. Well, again, there is absolutely nothing wrong with giving. I always say that there is nothing wrong with giving, but your giving should come from a pure heart, and your pure heart, it shouldn't be driven by guilt, because when you start feeling guilty, then that is where you are most likely to say when you do not have and feel guilty, and then you say, because at the end of the month, at least I am going to be able to pay it back. Making an example, someone else comes, uzoboleka 200 rand, and they are giving you a sob story that you can actually relate with. Hey, when I was young, I was actually helped by so and so. And then you say, okay, let me just rather do a quick temporal loan, and then you say, let's go and do a withdrawal. But the truth of the matter is, you didn't have this money, and you didn't have this money, and it's not your fault that you don't have this money. So always check your intentions when you give. Make sure that you are not giving from the guilt side, where you are actually feeling guilty and that you must have. And if your intentions are still very much pure and still very much clear, then it shouldn't be a problem giving. You shouldn't have a problem with giving. So I always say, giving from a pure heart and from where you have. There's a saying, it's you cannot pour from an empty cup. So fill yourself, and then you can pour, and then it will be easy for you you will flourish because your intentions are pure. Always check on your intentions. So when you have grown up spoiled and you are giving from the guilt perspective, and you are giving from a guilt perspective, then that becomes a problem, because your guilt might end up taking you build on the debt, because you keep on saying, at least I am employed, at least I can afford the installment, at least I can still get paid, so I might as well give, because at least I can still get the money at the month end. But if it was not part of your plan, then you are giving for all the wrong reasons. That is now the childhood wounds. And then I talk about the peer pressure. Again, like I was saying, each and every chapter, each and every wound that I talk about, the ancestral wound, I have a very detailed step-by-step on how to heal. The childhood wounds, for each and every identification, giving from lack, growing up spoiled, growing up from this point, then I also give you on how you can heal on that. Then I talk about the peer pressure. I know most of the time we always say peer pressure is for the teenagers. Abantu who are affected by the peer pressure are the teenagers. But the truth is, even us as adults would get affected by the peer pressure. And the peer pressure doesn't necessarily have to be, in fact it can. Let me start there. There's two kinds of peer pressures or more. But the ones that I'm going to talk about, the one where you see me with a car, hi Nomasonto, I'm just going to make an example ngawe. Unomasonto, a few days ago, she posted her beautiful white car BMW X6 that I dream of every day. I even know the price. And every day I'm like, I would love to drive that car. So if I see Unomasonto driving a BMW EX6, then I say, you know what? I need to have a Porsche. Yes, I need to have a Porsche, because now sending a pressure yoguti, this is what someone else is doing, then that is a peer pressure. If you see someone a bag, guys, I don't do labels, a bag, Louis Vuitton, then you want a bag, a bag, the shades and the shoes, then that is now a peer pressure. You're putting yourself under unnecessary pressure. So that's the first kind of peer pressure, when for by being wanting to shine, or you're wanting to have more than others. That is the first peer pressure that might lead you to debt. The second peer pressure, I wanted to separate this peer pressure, but I then thought, it was close to home. the breadwinner peer pressure. Sometimes these people that start working, they abazifakeli boni pressure. Pressure ifakwa ngabantu that are around them. People, you starting to work, you still finding yourself on your finances, and then all of a sudden there is umakhelwane saying, you know what, you can actually, now that you are employed, so that you ukwazi ukwakhela your mother a nice decent place. That is peer pressure. And now you succumb to that, and you start to think, you know what, I can actually, if nyani, you know what, I cannot be employed, and ekaya, it still looks like this. Again, there is nothing wrong with giving. There is nothing wrong with wanting to improve your home. But your home, how are you improving it? At what space are you improving it? Are you improving it because you want to, or are you improving it because abanye abantu are now saying you are supposed to do that? That is now another peer pressure. So I talk about that. Again, I give you steps on how you can heal there. I give you step by steps how to heal, how to identify, and all of those things. And then I talk about self-sabotage. That is now chapter 7. I talk about self-sabotage. I did that a lot when I was still employed. Self-sabotage, just to put it in a clear or in a simple view, knowing exactly ukuthi nge-month end you are struggling. You know very well ukuthi nge-month end ushiyeka na less than 1,000 rand, but the moment you hear you still qualify for, then you jump at a chance. But you know how painful your paydays are, That is self-sabotage. Digging yourself deeper into a hole without any tools to get yourself out of them. And you are in a desert where there is no one coming. You don't have water. You don't have anything. You just keep on digging, That is what I call is self-sabotage. So I talk about that. And this thing, self-sabotage, you create these problems on daily basis. I talk about Uguti, when I looked at it, every time I would take a loan, there is that little voice that used to say me, but you don't afford it. The fact that the banks are saying you afford it, you know very well what you do not afford it. And then I would have, most of the time, when you have that voice that is telling you the truth, you usually uyiphikisa ngomlomo. And I'll be like, no, but I need this money. And someone who is next to you would be like, who are you talking to? That is you self-sabotaging yourself, clashing with that inner voice that tells you, Uguti, you do not need this thing. And then when you come back out loud and say, no, I need it. And when you do it, no, I need it. I have to do this. So that is what I call is self-sabotage. And again, I talk again, like I said, on each and every wound, I share Uguti. How do you find yourself? How do you identify? Because very important. How do you identify Uguti what you have gone through? The kind of wound that you have gone through it's either a self-sabotage, it's either the peer pressure, the childhood, or the ancestral. And the last one, the fear of money. I call it money phobia. Guys, when we grew up, nje, unless like abantwana bangoku, our kids, they don't know these bad stories about money, where we talk about when we hear Uguti, you know what, umbona nje Mr. so and so enemali engaka is because bayarwetla. There's this word here, yakurwetla, where they're saying what's ukurwetla? Killing people for money. And most people who had shops when I was growing up, please, I know Uguti lento ndithethayo was not only happening in my area. Most people who had shops in our areas, who started businesses, we were told it was either uyarwetla, or they have a snake, or they are going to, there is this lady who is in East London who is known for giving people power so that they have money. So we were always told that. And in our minds, we go like, oh, I want money, but I don't want to have money in a bad kind of way. And as we grow, we grow up with that mindset, Yoguti, I want money, but you are scared of being labeled the wrong way, Yoguti, because you have this money, this kind of money, it's either uyarwetla or whatever that is bad that you are doing. And this thing, you can sabotage yourself in so many ways when it comes to this, when you have this thing. The first one is by you blocking nje anything that has money. You blocking salary increase, blocking all kinds, just blocking. Then when it finally comes in, because when it comes to you, when it's supposed to be yours, it's then yours. I'm just making an example. Getting a promotion, when you are supposed to get that promotion, then you get it. But because your subconscious mind is like, I do not want money, you know what it will do? It will create events where every time on your payday, money is gone. And money can be gone in which way? It can go in a way that it goes through debit orders. So the things are created that need you to take a debt, and then you sort out that problem fast, and then debit orders. Then you are earning 50,000 rand at the end of the month, but the money that actually reaches your home, okanye that reaches you that you can actually use is 2,000 rand. Ufana exactly another person who is earning 5,000 rand and heavy debit orders at 3,000 rand. You know why? Because you are scared of money. You are subconsciously scared of money. So those are the other things that block us from having money. And the way we block it through debt. Because now you are like, oh, okay, I'm earning 15,000 or I'm earning 50,000 rand. So if I can have a car that's debiting 25,000 rand and this, and then you are left with little money. That is one of the things that could be one of your wounds. Again, I do share how to heal on that. And then the last one, my very favorite one. I'll tell you why this chapter is my favorite. When the editor was editing this book, she actually called me. Wati, you wrote a very powerful chapter, but I didn't feel you there on this other part. So on this chapter 9, it says the healing process. The first there's 4 phases, and I have done a comparison of the physical wound and the emotional wound. And when I was doing the healing process of the physical wound, because obviously I'm not a doctor, I had to reference ndebuze ukuthi how does a wound generally heal. So I had to reference on that. I have put where I have referenced that. Then when she read this, she was like, yo, the physical wound, it doesn't sound like your style of writing. And I said, yes, that was not me. That was me referencing. And she said, but the emotional side of it, I can see Uguti, that was you. And yes, that was because I was referencing. Guys, I go to church and and there's something that we do. So when I was doing this part, it was more like me putting this physical healing part into the emotional part. For me to basically understand how do I change this healing process into healing the emotional part of it, because I believe I'm talking about the emotional wounds, but now how do I then heal it? And then when I got this process of healing, the part of healing, then I was just the emotional healing was just revealed to me that clearly, because I had to just now move it. So that is the healing part, the healing process. It is very powerful for me, because I believe you can use it for just about anything that you want to heal, any wound that you want to heal. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the wound that is on the book, the ones that I talk about. There are a lot of wounds that are there, the emotional wounds around. You find different coaches that they talk about different wounds that they have been exposed to. So I believe this book can actually help you heal any kind of emotional wound. This chapter can actually help you heal any kind of wound that you have. That is now the last part on the second section. Then the last section I went technical, because I feel good. Yes, technical, you can get it, but let's use technical. That is more practical. I talk about now how to stay out of debt. You know, the first one, how to get out of debt. I give you the techniques on how to get out of debt. You know, giving you step by step how to get out of debt. And then I give you the following chapter. I share the mistakes that we commonly make when we are saying we want to get out of debt. I'll just make an example, like saying I've got an extra 1,000 rand that I would like to add on my installments, and then you decide to spread that, and you're like, okay, I've got 5 debts and I'd like to pay. I have an extra 1,000 rand that I can actually share, and then you say, okay, I'm going to pay 200 to each debt. That doesn't work. That's not going to work. You need to have a proper plan. And I am a debt coach. Should you want to find ways on how to get out of debt faster, especially if you have an additional amount of money, the last thing you want to do is you don't want to divide that money into all your debts, because it's not going to make that much of the difference. Okay, then those are one of the mistakes. The second mistake, trying to like dig it all by yourself. Guys, we have support system. We have people that support us, and if you are not comfortable talking about it to the people that are close to you, find someone that you know you are going to maybe sign a confidentiality clause, but you need to have the support system when you are trying to get out of debt. You cannot do it alone, because it's not a journey that you can say, I'm going to be finishing it in the next, let's say you have a 5-year loan that you're going to finish in 2025, then probably by 2023 you get tired and get offers like debt consolidation, debt what these debt review things that make it look like it's easy, that come to us displayed as solutions, and yet they are not. So those are one of the things that I mentioned here, Guti. Those are the common mistakes abantu abazenzayo when they are saying they are taking this journey of getting out of debt and getting out of debt permanently. And then I talk about how to pay it faster. That one, like I said, I do cover it on the debt payment plan when I do the coaching sessions for debt payment plan, and then I give you some sort of a plan on how to can actually reduce your debt that you are going to pay in 5 years and finish it maybe in probably 3 or 2 years or 2.5 years. I've done it for quite a number of people, and they are very much happy. And again, like I say, it's a journey. You need support, and I do provide that support. I'm very proud of that, because I know people who have interacted with me, who keep the interaction, they know for a fact, when it comes to support, I'm just there. They cannot say I don't support them. So yes, that is this chapter. And then I talk about the conclusion. Let me just read the conclusion for you. I say here, we can only change our circumstances if we realize the situations we are in and allow change into our lives. I hope you have identified your wound and you are giving yourself time to heal. It does not have to be about debt. It can be anything in life general, and certain behaviors that are driven by your past. May you heal and create a new path for yourself, a path that is filled with freedom, and most importantly, financial freedom. I am a big believer, Yoguti, each and every one of us, we deserve to be financially free. There is not even a single person who doesn't deserve to be financially free. And with the information with us, like your coaches, your financial coaches, your money coaches, all kind of coaches, financial wellness coaches, there are ways we can find ourselves debt free. So I believe each and every one of us, we deserve to be financially free. So guys, that is it. That is what I wanted to share with you, and that is how this book is basically covered. And I hope I've just given you a clarity on how the book is covered. And now I'm going to go through the questions. I didn't want to go through the questions and the comments because I was scared Guti I might lose it. So let me just do that. And yes, I'll just read questions. Guys, can you just give me a minute? I need to light here. I think the light is like dimming now. Thank you. Yeah, the light looks much better now. Okay, I'm just going to go through the questions. You can still type here any other question that you have, and I will respond. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing a live. I've invited a few people that have already bought the book that are going to share their insights on how the book has touched their lives and how it has, how they've made it, changes into their lives. And, there is a very powerful testimony that I got a few days ago when someone was saying she was offered a loan and she rejected it for the very first time in her life. And I was like, oh, that is nice. And she was like, you know what? I told them no. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. And she was saying it was a consolidation loan, and she's been signing up for consolidation loans after every 3 years, and she never realized it. And she always thought ukuthi she's getting a breather, because every time she was getting a loan, it would be like maybe drop the installment by 2,000, by 200 or 500 or 1,000 rand, but it was always like she would think ukuthi she's getting a breather. But what she never realized ukuthi she's still actually paying for a loan that she had taken go 2010, and because she keeps on signing debt consolidation every month, every 3 years, she never realized ukuthi hayibo kahle elityale endilibhatalayo ityale endandilithathe ngo 2010, and it should have been paid at least by 2015 or 2016, but she never realized that, and this book has helped her do that. So that was a very powerful testimony for me, and I was like, oh, okay, it's actually doing what I would love for it to do, the book, to give people education and give them tools on how to actually manage their debt and take out shame. Stop being ashamed of what, oh, okay, you know what, I'm in debt, I cannot tell anyone. Something that you suffer all by yourself. It's doing that, because I realized, yes, I do want people to get out of debt, and I only have a Facebook platform and no social media platform. What else can I do? And then this book came into mind. It was just presented to me, and yeah, I went through it. So I'm just going to go through the questions and comments. It's Tandega. Hi, Tandega. Thank you so much. Thank you. Says I look beautiful. Thank you so much. And then there is Ubongi. Hi, Bongi. Jemima, hello. Hi, Tantasa. Hi, Sisam. Squeezer, or what do we call it? Stura. Hi. And then Ukukuzungu. Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Standasam Jabong. And Ntombi, hi Ntombi. Guys, can I just tell you a little bit about Ntombi? I've actually put here now Ntombi on the book. So I met Ntombi in 2017, or when? October or September. Guys, Ntombi has had a huge impact in my life. Kanjani? First of all, I've always had this belief yokuthi kufuneka ngibese goli for me to make things happen. I don't know why, but again, I've always thought ukuthi izinto zenzeka kakhulu eJoburg. So my interaction with Ntombi actually made me feel like I was in Joburg, because I would speak to her every day. And then when I started to, obviously she trained me for trading Forex. You guys know most, which I also do into Forex. Then she trained me, and then she started to believe in me. Like, I know I've had people that believe in me, and I used to think abantu who believe in me is because are the people who are close to me, like my husband. My husband like totally believes in me. I would say this and then she would believe in me. And I would always think ukuthi he believes in me because he loves me. My mother believes in me because she loves me. So I always thought ukuthi people who believe in me is because they love me. And people from work, they believe in me. I was this very bold person, and when you work with me, there is just no way you cannot believe in me because I'm very bold. Then Ntombi, I was like, hey, but this lady, she doesn't even know me. She's never seen my face, but she believes in me. And then she started to believe in me, and then she started to build me. Ntombi wandaka, in terms of confidence, in terms of me knowing ukuthi there's nothing that I cannot do. So I started to be like, oh wow, I can actually be this. I can actually be good. And then when I said, moving out of Ntombi because she's also training, and then I was like, you know what, Ntombi, I would love to do a training on the Forex again. And she was like, no, it's fine, it's okay. Hoibo, Ntombi supported me, guys. I'm like, hoibo. Abanye abantu wouldn't actually support you when you are starting a business that is close to what they are doing. Obviously, I was not going to copy her because we had an agreement of how we're going to do this. She supported me. She checked up on me. Like, I bought this girl. She actually really believes in me. So basically, this is my friend. I've never seen her. I would love to hug her one day and just give her a huge warm hug. Because really, 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 she was something else. Like, showed me there are people who are pure here, and me having my heart, which I strongly believe which is very pure, it has very pure intentions, seeing and connecting with someone like her was like, oh, there is this thing that is called pure heart. So I just wanted to talk about Ntombi. Hi Ntombi. Hello. She's saying she's glad. Hi Lebu Ntabi. And then hi Ntombi again. Ntabi saying powerful indeed. And then there is Ntombi grabbing a box of tissues again. You're starting again with that story. I've healed, so I'm okay with it. And then there is Bongi saying she can relate. And then Nyani says, hello Nyani. And then there is Noma Sondo, finally made it to your life. Hi. Shane saying, wow, so true. I don't know what even the teen got again. Okay. I can't remember. And then Noma Sondo saying, I know that very well. Yes, you know, when the little voice is saying to you, you are wrong, and you are like, no, I'm right. Now that is not right. And then she's saying, but when I'm talking about Ukurwek. They used to say Batwele with a snake of their children. And then Busi, hi class, hi, how are you? And then Nontogozo say this thing of giving. I just know that feeling is if you are giving that particular person and you just have to give them, even if you are not in the right position financially. Yes. You know what? You need to stop when you are not in the right position. There is nothing wrong with saying, I don't have. A person will go. When you are like, you know what? I don't have. I cannot help you this time. And, you know. And then, Bongi, I loved your story. Thank you so much. And then, I was like, Hoibo, this girl, she really believes in me. Hey, girl, you know what? You made me. Tommy Malatsi is a walking Jesus. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining. Please do join me on Zoom. I'm going to share the Facebook Live. What is this thing that I'm so overwhelmed right now. I'm going to share the Zoom link, and I'm just going to post an invite here on this page and also on my personal page. Do join me same time tomorrow. And for those who have the book, please do come with your questions. Please do come with your comments. And one last thing that I was talking to someone about yesterday. I know it's not easy to talk about debt. We have this thing of putting shame when it comes to debt. Guys, it's not. We shouldn't feel ashamed of it. We should like take out the lessons and be like, okay, what is it that I have learned out of this? Then in that way, it's going to be easy for us to tackle it and find solution around it. Because if we feel ashamed of it, it's going to be really hard to get out of it. So with me saying this, I'm talking to those people that have already bought the book. Please do not feel what are people going to say simply because I have bought this book. No. We have passed the stage of judging each other. We have grown. We are more educated. We are more worried about ourselves and how we can move forward. With ourselves, how we can prosper in our lives. So let's not feel ashamed. Let's not judge ourselves. And when you judge yourself, obviously the people around you are going to judge. So the moment you stop judging and the moment you stop feeling shame around debt, then that is going to be your first step in healing. So thank you so much for being part of this. I don't see any other questions. Busi saying I look good. And then, okay, Ntombi, lastly, thank you so much, Pelisa, for the shout out. But most importantly, thank you for writing this book. It will help many. Thank you so much. I am overwhelmed. Hey, Ntombi. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining. I'm really, really, really happy that you joined. And I am happy that I did this. And, please do join me tomorrow. I will post the link to Zoom and ask questions. we're going to be doing a live interaction there. People will just unmute themselves, and yeah. And there is Happy Fit here. I've got to be in a gym, don't go 6. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you.